Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, and today I'm going to tell you another story from my past. So this is going to be more bodybuilding related. It has to do with when I competed in the natural universe in 2001 in the WNBF, and it's the most hilarious way I've ever seen somebody get disqualified from a bodybuilding show. But before I get to that, let me set the stage for you. And honestly, it's almost like there was a certain resonance here, but anyway, you'll get it by the time the end comes. So just bear with me. So the funny thing about bodybuilding or any professional sport, so say if you're a professional athlete, a lot of times people just see what the person does in the arena. They just see what they do. Like say they're a hockey player, a basketball player, they just see how the person performs, but they always underestimate the challenges that normal life presents to those athletes while they're trying to achieve something big, like a championship or whatever, right? So the funny thing is that before the 2001 universe, I had decided, I said, no matter what, I'm gonna get lean for the show, because the last few shows, I had a bit of a issue when it comes down to digesting carbs properly, and I started to retain a bit of water and stuff. And I think this is also because when I got food poisoning in '98, my stomach just never really processed carbs the right way again. It was almost like I was having trouble managing fullness of the muscle without spilling over. So of course I was getting some digestive upset from this, so I'd have to overcompensate sometimes by going a little bit too low carb to make sure I'm not retaining any water, and sometimes sacrificing a bit of muscle in the process. But that way I could offset that water retention and get really lean. So I decided, hey, I'm gonna die or get really good placing in this show. I'm gonna basically make sure that no matter what it takes, I'm going to eat as lean as possible in order to get to some sort of level of shreddedness, right? So what this entailed was I started eating a little bit of carbs in the morning, say maybe half a yam or potato or something like that. And at some point I started to just siphon off all the carbs except for 2 days a week. I noticed if I filled out with carbs, like saturated my body, and then I started to eat low carb for the next few days, I would start to manage to be full and leaner. And I just kept doing this to make sure that I peak on Saturday, because the show was going to be on a Saturday. And I kept doing this successively. Now, the side effect of this was I had intense cravings, right? Because I was doing low fat, low carb. So the amount of chicken going through my system was off the charts. Like I was definitely eating about, not including protein shakes, about 300 grams a day of protein to 340 grams, 330 grams, something like that. And then I'd have these big protein shakes, like chocolate protein shakes, right? And I'd be using egg whites instead of milk, of course, as the base. So just egg whites and protein, and I'd be siphoning these things down. Now, you can guess what the side effect of this was. I mean, I was definitely not having solid bowel movements. You know what I'm saying? Like it was not good. Like I was going to the washroom 3 times a day, 4 times a day. And it wasn't just the toilet that was getting dirty. It was underneath the seat. You know what I'm saying? It was pretty explosive. I can't believe I'm talking about this, but it's the reality of that type of diet. It was pretty brutal. So I'm not saying for you to do this, but it worked. I ended up getting leaner, but honestly, it was dangerous. It was dangerous to be around me for any period of time. So that said, before I went, I had a photo shoot with Gators Gym Clothing, because Serge used to really help me out a lot. He used to use me in his photo shoots to promote his Gators Gym Clothing, which is a real 80s brand, but it seemed to really do well throughout the 90s and stuff too. And I was coming back from a photo shoot, and as I was merging onto the freeway, I went to shoulder check, and then when I turned back, there was a guy that was at a dead stop on the merging lane in his van. So I rear-ended him, and that nice 1995 Trans Am that I had got totally written off. That was almost like an example of how life sometimes gets in the way. So I wrote the car off, and thank God I was okay. Like nothing happened to me. I didn't even tweak my neck, which was hilarious. I wrote my car off and didn't even actually tweak my neck or my upper back. And some people, a lot of times they get rear-ended like a 10-kilometer fender bender, and they're, chasing lawyers around and stuff, trying to get money or whatever. Like nothing happened to me. Basically, I just, Funny enough, I actually had my car in the newspaper at the time, and because there was no other car like it in the newspaper for sale, the insurance adjuster actually saw what price I was asking for, not realizing it was me, and basically gave me the full amount of money that I was asking for. So it turned out to work out pretty good. So funny thing, this is going on the day before I leave for New York. Now, I've never been to New York before. The only way I'd ever been to New York is watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies and all the rest, right? So I was getting ready for, let's just say I wasn't really sure what to expect. You know, this big city, New York, right? Everybody knows it's the biggest city in the States pretty much. And New Yorkers have their certain personality, right? And of course, once I got there, I discovered that they were probably the nicest people I'd ever met in any city. And that includes like when I went to LA or any of the other places, I found that they were extremely accommodating and polite and everything. It was crazy. Whereas when I was in Miami, there was fistfights breaking out at the table right beside me, right on the South Beach, right? So I was like, what the hell's going on here, right? But in New York, it was crazy. The policemen were nice, everybody's nice. So let me just get back to the competing part here. One thing that you guys who are competing right now don't know that you might take for granted now is that a lot of you guys get your tanning done when you're doing a bodybuilding show at the show. Like there's some sort of tanning products person that applies your tan, make sure it's perfectly even, everything's good. You're not putting it everywhere, you know? It's not like handprints all over the wall. Like there was entire theaters destroyed in the 90s by bodybuilders competing in that theater. Like if you were a promoter and you came to a theater and said, we're running a bodybuilding show, they'd almost get the crucifix out knowing, like back, because you're gonna destroy my fucking theater with all this tanning shit that was gonna be on your walls and competitors sitting in the seats and all this stuff and putting all these stains everywhere, right? So it looks like the whole theater got like shit on, you know? So basically what was happening back then is that you had to apply your own tan at home and then have somebody help you out backstage to apply your tan to make sure it was even. And because of this, there was always somebody that stepped on stage that looked like they walked out of a tar pit. You know, they could have doubled as a T-Rex, you know, on stage because they're just black from head to toe. You couldn't even see any muscularity, or they had so much baby oil on it looked like they were a seal and they were going to slip off the stage. And there was so much glare coming off, you had to wear sunglasses, right? So there was all these mismatched tanning product disasters that would happen inevitably, but that was part of the whole process. So whenever you were a competitor and you wanted to go to a show, you had to set up somebody to help you out, be an assistant or something. So I recruited one of my friends who was a bodybuilding enthusiast, and he wanted to compete too. And I recruited him, his name was Randy. And I said, hey, Randy, do you want to come to New York with me, help me out with the tan and stuff, and take some pictures while I'm on stage? And therefore, I have somebody to help me out because I had nobody to help me out. I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. Me and the girlfriend that usually came with me, we had broken up, and that was a disaster in itself. So that was a good thing, but she was an incredible assistant at the bodybuilding shows. So I was kind of missing that. So I said, hey, can you help me out? So anyway, he decided to come. Now, I'm not sure if he regretted it or not, because I think he had a good time at the show, but the trip to New York was interesting to say the least, because remember, I was on that interesting diet. So we go on the plane and I notice my stomach just doesn't feel quite right. And of course, I'm opening up my box of chicken because I had this big box of chicken stir fry. You know, broccoli and chicken doesn't smell the best anyway. So you're opening this up, and I was, you know, eating this throughout the day to keep my protein balance up, right? And to keep my blood sugar from dropping. And of course, eating in the days before you go to a show is the most important thing. If you start starving too much, you're going to lose some muscle or you're going to flatten out. So I wanted to make sure I was keeping full. So I'm eating this or whatever, and I put it away, and then I go to take a nap. And of course, I'm thinking, oh man, what am I going to do now? Because, you know, I'm getting a lot of gas from this diet that I'm on, right? And I just started carving up with some protein bars, which made it even worse. And I remember just a couple times I thought, oh, you know, he won't notice or nobody will notice, right? My friend Randy's sitting beside me. I'll just let out a little bit of gas because my stomach was hurting. And I remember just the minute I did it, then he turned to me, and he was kind of a funny, Randy's kind of a funny character because he had one eye that kind of would squint more than the other. And he was kind of like, he has jet black hair and eyebrows, so he looks almost like a pirate, like a living embodiment of a pirate. And he kind of goes like this, like, was that you? Like this, right? And I look at him, I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, no, that smell, man, like, was that you? And I'm like, I started laughing a bit, and I said, yeah, well, fuck, sorry, man, it's just the diet. Well, anyway, it was only a matter of a minute or so, and then 2 rows back, I hear these women go, "What's that smell? What's going on? Is there garbage around here or something?" They started the whole trip. They were talking about they couldn't figure out what that smell was. And it was like this. It was almost like this. If like I don't believe in wearing masks. I think the mask thing was stupid. But back in 2001, on that plane from Chicago to New York, if somebody would have asked to wear a mask, I would have forgiven them for it and said, yes, go ahead, because it was probably the best thing for them. So, but all joking aside, that's basically how the trip happened. So I didn't realize that this was going to be a bit of a premonition. But anyway, let's fast forward to the show. I get to the show, I'm on stage, or I'm getting on stage. We're pumping up backstage, me and all the competitors. And then the MC calls us out for the first comparisons, right? So we all line up out stage, and there's about 8 or 9 of us or something. And we're going through our poses, going through our compulsories and everything. And we're all the way through, and then we start filing off stage. And then there's this one guy that was supposed to be in my division. He comes running out and he goes, "Hey, oh crap." And he's talking to the MC. He goes, "Hey, is this my division? Is this my division?" The guy goes, "Yeah, that was your division. It was heavyweight division." He's like, "Oh man." And the guy goes, "Well, yeah, we tried calling you out 3 times. The guy goes, "Oh, I missed it." And the guy goes, "What happened to you?" And he goes, "Well, I was in the bathroom." So the guy was in the bathroom the whole time, taking a dump or whatever, and he missed his entire show. He had flown from Florida to come to New York to do this show, prepping and stuff. Who knows? He's probably prepping for 4 months for this show, or 5 months. And then he missed it because he was busy using the washroom. So go figure, right? So anyway, that was the funniest thing ever, because you get on stage and it was like, he was like, "Oh shit," right? I missed the show. So that was it. He basically had to be disqualified. And he never got a chance to do his comparisons or anything. And so that was the end of his Natural Universe career of 2001. So as much as I've been to a lot of natural bodybuilding shows and guys would get disqualified for failing the polygraph test or the urine test and stuff, this was the funniest way that a guy ever got disqualified from a show. Is he was disqualified for taking a dump, basically. So yeah, so that's my story from the Natural Universe in 2001. I hope that entertained you, and I hope you got a laugh anyway. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Mountain. Natural.